Hey everyone, and if you're wondering, no, I'm not a day late. I got a super special one for you. Today we'll be taking a look at the all-new load-bearing adaptive plate carrier, or LBAC, by HRT. And this plate carrier is actually releasing today, so let's take a look at it and see how this thing stacks up. All right, let's do it. So right off the bat, I'm going to tell you, I'm seeing some really unique designs and some pretty crazy customization options that make me really excited to dig into this LBAC. Now, we have previously reviewed the HRT rack, and it did fairly well in our previous test with its team-based concept and its plate carrier design. And we were actually able to see this exciting LBAC carrier in person when we were at SHOT Show earlier this year, where we got to see the new design of this carrier up close and personal when we hung out with the guys from HRT. But I really was curious how all those new design concepts would translate when they were actually worn by the user. So today, we'll definitely put this thing through its paces, and maybe even a few extra tests. And then we can see what this thing can really do. But first off, let's do a quick reminder of who the heck HRT is. HRT is a team that transitioned from tactics and training to a gear development company. Their expertise and training allowed them to develop top-tier equipment that excels in both individual and team-based mission sets. These guys don't just sell you on gimmick Instagram photos with their faces all blurred over. I don't know why they do that. It's a little ridiculous. But if we're going to test this thing, let's see what our current plate carrier ranking is. In first, we have the Agilite K19 version 3 with its insane load-bearing comfort and new removable shoulder QDs. Second is the Javelin Concepts AJAC with its ground-up approach that puts it in a dead race with powerhouse companies like Cry Precision. In third, we have the LA Police Gear Atlas that has a feature set and price that's so tough to beat. Fourth, we have our Defense Mechanisms MEPC with its amazing customization and world-class hybrid cummerbund. In fifth, we have the Grey Ghost Gear SMC with its QDs and insane expansion to connect into damn near anything. And here you can see where some of the other carriers have landed, so we don't forget about those guys. And so now you're sitting here watching this video with like 3 ho-hos jammed up in your toes, just asking yourself, why is this plate carrier different from any of the others? And I'll tell you now, the LBAC is unlike most of the carriers you see on the market, as it's designed to use a rigid cummerbund system to better distribute load along the plate carrier. But the issue that happens when you make things rigid is that they don't flex at all. That makes breathing while running, jumping, or hell doing anything besides just standing there nearly impossible. So HRT solved this by making the rear of the bag split back. And there is not only tension, but adjustable tension. And we'll be talking about this a lot as we go, but it's a pretty genius design as the actual plate carrier adapts to the user and the needs of the environment. So if you find yourself suddenly needing to flat out sprint and then engage targets, you're not restricted by your own plate carrier. And that's the idea anyway. We'll test it out. The first thing we'll do is I'm going to show you all the buying options and then everything you receive when you actually order the LBAC. And then we'll do our usual and look at the entire setup in detail, followed by all of our plate carrier tests. And I can't wait to tell my wife she gets to put on another plate carrier. She got a bit of a break for a few months there. After those tests though, we'll do our pros and cons as usual, and then we'll see where this thing lands on our plate carrier ranking chart. First though, let's look at all the ordering options when you go to purchase the LBAC. And this one is pretty easy as the LBAC comes loaded and assembled, and the only options really available are color and size. Wait. You're gonna tell me they're not like the other gear companies? They're gonna sell me a chest rig and then not even include the required straps? Well, color me impressed. You simply pick the large for 10 by 12 plates and then extra large for 11 by 14 plates. Also of note is that the 4 MOLLE segment cummerbund sleeves are included, and you can also upgrade to the 6 MOLLE segment. In the end, as you can see, I went with the large LBAC to fit 10 by 12 plates in multicam, but I did also get the 6 MOLLE sleeves so I can show it to you. So let's dig into this thing, and I guess we'll start as we always do with the front plate bag. Looking at the top of the plate bag, we see some striking similarities to the HRT rack. We see the same padded portion in the center of your carrier to keep your face and chin safe from running into your plates. One difference we see here from the rack, though, are two shoulder QDs. Now, there is some magic here, and as you can see how I have this configured right now, they are actually removable, but we'll talk about that more when we get to the actual shoulder section. Moving to the front of the carrier, we see the same HRT rack front panel, which has an innovative design to make it simple to connect in various bits. The first two rows of MOLLE include a center loop section that can be used to connect in various admin pouches or phone mounts. You can also use this area to throw on some cool guy patches to annoy people on the internet. Along the side, we see some magic though, as the side MOLLE has an additional vertical strip that you can use to connect in your placards or PTTs regardless of the orientation. Here you can see the ITW Quasm clips can be attached easily to add in our placard setup. And it seems so simple, but the whole horizontal and vertical MOLLE makes the whole mess of connecting everything up super easy. Finishing up this section, I connected our Nexus U94 PTT using our Great Plains shroud and upgraded alligator clip into this position. And then below the main section is a third row of MOLLE to give you added connection space, or you can use it to help route comms or other cables. Along each side of the carrier are elastic bands to help aid you with additional cable routing and just overall cable management. So then you could do like I have here, where I just ran like an antenna setup through that elastic band and then through the actual shoulder connections. Continuing down the front bag, we see the same designs as the HRT rack with the large loop section to connect in your cummerbund and various placard setups. Here I connected in the HRT Maximus placard along with the HRT Sporran Dangler pouch. And I did reviews on both of those, and if you want to see those, I'll link here somewhere. I'll also put the link down in the description. Moving down, we see the large plate bag opening with a quick release strap that is still insanely hard to open. I swear the guys at HRT are just playing a joke on me, making this part so insanely hard to open. You never, ever have to worry about this plate bag opening randomly, I'll tell you that. I did add in some HESCO 4401 plates so we could really load this bad boy up with these 7-pound plates. But did you catch it? That one teeny tiny, yet super huge difference on the front plate bag. And those familiar with the Cry SPC probably spotted it, but there is a built-in slit on the front of the bag, so the side cummerbund can slide into the front plate carrier. And this is how that rigid assembly we mentioned earlier all connects in and stays secure, but we'll get there. First off, let's see what's on the other side of the front plate bag. Flipping this over, we see a ton of similarities to the HRT rack, with the two loop portions for added pontoons, along with the two padded channels for additional ventilation and comfort. These pads can also be removed by opening the bottom and sliding them out if you just want something different. And I didn't always love these, so I like that it's user configurable for whatever the user finds the most comfortable or the most viable for their mission set. Back on the carrier, we also see that the shoulder section has a hook and loop tab to secure the shoulder buckles. Both of these can also be removed if you want to run a lower profile plate carrier. And I'm pretty sure that HRT is going to make fun of me because I complained on the HRT rack that it only had one shoulder strap. And then I totally removed one on my strong side and kept one on my support side shoulder. Oh, well, maybe that design works better than I thought. But I'm struggling a little bit on what part to show you next because each design element really works with the other one to make it all into this whole seamless concept. I guess we'll just go with what we normally do, and let's just do the rear plate bag first. Looking at the top of the rear bag, I immediately see a ton of similarities to the HRT rack with the attached drag handle. But hold up. Before we go anything further, there are some crazy things happening under the hood of this rear plate bag. The rear bag is actually connected into the rear expansion system through these tabs and the shoulder attachment. And then the rear bag can actually be removed. Under here, we see the beginnings of the magic of the load carrying that offers adjustable chest expansion in the rigid system, and the design flows all the way into the shoulder straps that connect into the front plate bag. And this under portion is actually where you connect in and adjust the actual cummerbund and where you change the actual tension for the whole chest expansion of the whole system. Just by pulling the bungee taut, it adds more tension to the system, or you can pull down on the ring to release it. Looking at the other side of this load-bearing section, we see it's lightly padded with this breathable mesh that we see on the front bag and shoulder areas also. Connecting our rear bag back in, you line up the actual tabs and then lock them in, but there's actually some adjustment in the shoulder straps if you want to change like the actual angle of the actual rear plate bag as it sits on you. Here I'll connect the rear bag back in and reconnect the shoulder straps, so the carrier sits flat on my back while the under harness system wraps around me underneath. It's all pretty smart, and I'll show you how it all works in unison as we continue along. All right though, let's get back to that actual rear plate bag. Much like the HRT rack, we see the same proprietary rear attachment system that allows you to connect in different packs on the top or bottom, or one that uses both sections. Now, normally I would say I very much dislike this, but in like a load-bearing type carrier like this, I really like the idea of having different packs or different equipment set up that I can just attach whenever I need to, or just remove them and run the whole thing slick. Using the tabs, rear Velcro, and zippers, I connected in the HRT Hydromax rear panel and routed over a drinking tube to the front, along with making a small change to add in S-Tac Kydex inserts to allow for extra mags in one of the rear panels. And I highly doubt I can reach those mags with my horrible flexibility, but now at least Joe can't jam fruit roll-ups in there. All right, you ready to do the cummerbund? Wait till you see this. Let's do it. So the cummerbund is actually this rigid section of Tigris that we're going to connect into the carrier. And if you've used a Tigris belt, you know that it bends in one direction easily, but then not at all in another. So that makes it really great for both being lightweight and then being really good for load bearing. But the first thing you have to decide is if you want to run the cummerbund with a MOLLE sleeve or run it slick. As we mentioned, included with the LBAC is the 4 MOLLE sleeve with the internal pouch for mags or radios, and also included is the standard slick connector. To connect in the slick connector, fold the locking tab under the first section to lock it in place. And it's important that you use the first section because if you put it too far back, you can have issues where you put it into your plate carrier and then the two Tigris sections just run into each other and cause issues. Then to connect it all up, you slide the Tigris into the plate carrier slit while connecting in the hook tab into the front loop portion. And these tabs are great for those people who want to have their gear as close to the front as possible. Like if you want to run side plates and want to have it just one single piece, then I'd highly recommend using those connecting tabs. As another option though, you can also connect in the 4-panel MOLLE. To do this, keep the hook and loop connection tab inside the sleeve and slide in the Tigris. And actually did this wrong where I connected the tab through the cummerbund through one of those tabs. It's a really huge pain, and yeah, you don't need to do that. Once the Tigris is through the sleeve, take the rear buckle and slide it underneath the opening, and then back up to lock it into the next slot to secure the MOLLE sleeve in place. Just make sure the actual buckle goes down through one slot and then back up and locked in. Now, as we mentioned, there is also a 6 MOLLE section that you can get as an upgrade. The 6 MOLLE section connects in the same way with the rear buckle, but gives you more MOLLE space on the outside of the carrier. In the end, I connected up both 4 MOLLE sections to put a mag on my strong side and a radio on my support side. Yeah, and if you're wondering, both the 4 MOLLE sleeve and the 6 MOLLE sleeve have that same internal pouch for radios and mags and stuff. Using the 4 or 6 MOLLE, you can use the included rock buckle to have a QD connection into the front of the carrier. Or you can unhook the hook and loop tab to remove the buckles completely. And then you can run it directly connected like when we had our cummerbund in the slick configuration with the hook and loop tab connected into the front of the carrier. And you can also just do them independently. Like I only have a QD on one side. Since I have a radio and all this stuff all connected up, a QD on this side doesn't make the most sense anyway. All right, so have you seen, I've been able to customize this thing perfectly for me. I'm absolutely loving it. All right, though, I still got more to show you, so let's move on to the actual shoulder straps. Starting from the rear, we see how we connected in the rear plate bag and how we can make adjustments to the angle our rear bag sits. The front of the shoulder straps allows us to use a slick or QD style configuration. To move from QDs to slick, simply unhook the front hook and loop tab on the front plate bag and detach the hook and loop from the shoulder straps and slide out the buckle. Then use the attached hook and loop tab from the front plate bag to connect into the shoulder pad. So if you hate shoulder buckles, you can remove them, or you can keep them, or hell, you can just run one. And that's really the biggest difference we're seeing in this next generation of plate carriers. Options that you can pick. All right, well, good grief, we've gone over the whole carrier, so let's do some testing. What's the first one? Let's just do the donning and doffing test first. I found donning and doffing to be fairly easy with the Velcro straps. You lift your placard and then remove the hook and loop strap to free the Tigris portion to remove the carrier. For the QD cummerbund tabs, it was a bit odd as I needed to pull down to disconnect the QD, but then pull outward to remove the cummerbund. And it's just two different directions that you're moving in, so it can involve a little bit of flailing to get the cummerbund disconnected. Donning using the Velcro tab was incredibly easy and just involved sliding in the Tigris sleeve into the front of the carrier and then raising the front placard to connect in the hook and loop tab. And I found there was the most flexibility and adjustment when you use the hook and loop tab. To don using the QD buckles, you just slide in the Tigris section and then get the two tabs close to one another so you can slide them down and lock them back together. With the cummerbund section needing to go in and then the QDs needing to go down, it can be a little bit tricky trying to get it all connected up. But once you learn it and figure out how it all works, it's not so bad. Whichever setup you choose, it's easy and it's pretty cool that you can decide on whatever you want to use. All right, so what's the next test? Oh, it's the shoulder straps and then the cummerbund adjustment test. Starting with the cummerbund, adjustments happen at the rear of the plate carrier. Because remember, if you adjust them at the front, the two Tigris tabs will run into each other and then just annoy the hell out of you. To adjust, you just slide the Tigris further back and connect in the locking Molly tab to change the size adjustment. If you get it so small that the two Tigris segments overlap, that's not an issue as the two Tigris sections would then help to support the load, but they can still slide back and forth on one another. But just make sure it doesn't go so far that it comes out on the opposing side. If that happens, then just trim down some of that Tigris. And one of the wildest things is I found I could fit this to just about any frame if I had the time to adjust all the different pieces correctly. The shoulder straps are equally easy to use as you just loosen the strap for the shoulder QD or hook and loop tab and then adjust the ride height accordingly and then just reconnect in the shoulder strap. The adjustment and then user configuration of how you want it is just fantastic. All right, so what's our next test? I thought we removed this one. Oh, it's the size adjustment range. I'm only annoyed because I have this thing perfectly sized to me. Here we see some of the range of the size adjustment of this carrier, as this carrier easily fits my frame, and then by making adjustments to the carrier, we also see the LBAC easily fits my wife's more petite frame. I did need to max out the shoulder straps to get the carrier in a reasonably correct ride height, and the cummerbund itself is also at the max position to still use the 4 Molly cover. So it covers all the way from someone a good bit larger than me, all the way down to a small petite woman's frame. If you get much smaller though, you can't really use that Molly sleeve and you probably need to trim up the actual cummerbund. All right though, let's move to our next test, and that's all the available colors. As noted in our purchasing options, the LBAC comes in a few different colors that range from black, coyote brown, ranger green, multicam, and multicam black. And I think they hit most of the popular colors, and I will say that this whole setup in multicam black would probably look absolutely ridiculous. All right, so what's next? The plate size fit test, but we kind of already did this. The plate bag is really the same design on the HRT rack that had no issues fitting the larger or the thinner plate sizes, so we're just gonna skip that. It passes that with flying colors. Let's just move on to the rifle cheek weld test. I found with the QD buckles installed that I did have some difficulty placing the rifle buttstock on my shoulder. But as I've mentioned, I like to lock the stock into my carrier to add further stability into the weapon system, so the QD being in the way doesn't really become an issue to me at all. And I found that hooking into the plate carrier adds a ton of stability if you train into it, particularly if your plate carrier is load bearing already. I mean, it's legitimately designed to hold the load securely. But I did remove the QD buckle on my strong side, and I found that I could get a solid placement of the rifle buttstock regardless of where it was placed. Inside, outside, or right on top of the shoulder strap, it was easy to place the stock, and the entire system stayed locked in place. And really, this carrier gets like 5 thumbs up from me on this test, as it can do whatever the user wants. If you want to hook it into the carrier, you can do that. If you want to remove the QDs, you can do that. If you want to have QDs, put them in. It's whatever you want. Now, normally for our last plate carrier test, we would do a prone comfort test, but we already did that with the HRT rack, and I don't think this is going to behave any differently during that test. So let's do something differently, and let's do an actual road run test. And here is where this plate carrier absolutely dominates, not just in the ability to carry a load, but in the ability to adapt to the user, to allow for greater or lesser exertion of effort as the situation requires. If I was going fast and needed to take a deep breath, it was really nice because the plate carrier itself flexed and then gave my lungs that added room. And then as the activity level lowered, the carrier adjusted back down to still fit well around me at all times. And as I mentioned earlier, this is where you're going to see a lot of other rigid cummerbunds struggle, and it's really neat to see how HRT solved this in such a smart way. All right, though, let's go to pros and cons, and the first pro I want to do is the sheer amount of options. From cummerbunds that can be slick or with 4 or 6 MOLLE sleeves, with hook and loop or QD cummerbunds, to the insane number of rear panel options and user configurable shoulder QDs, this carrier allows the user to make this carrier into what they want to fit both their mission set and their personal preference. And what's crazy is all these different options actually come with the LBAC. You don't have to buy a whole ton of crap separately. Like a lot of the other tactical gear companies don't even include straps for things that require straps. All right, let's go to the next pro, and that this carrier is designed to run in, fight in, and to win in. With the rear section being able to expand as the user needs, it's incredibly easy to wear this carrier even when you're needing to ramp up the activity level. Regardless of what you're doing or what the mission requires, the carrier adapts to your effort level while holding both your equipment and plate securely. And that split back design is what allows for the chest and lung expansion inside a rigid system. All right, then let's do the last pro, and that it's a functional rigid system. The design allows the user to place significant gear along the cummerbund section without the cummerbund flexing or bending under load. Those users that need a lot of equipment aligned on their cummerbund will absolutely love this lightweight and rigid Tigris support system. Now, I don't normally put a ton of stuff on my cummerbund because I just wouldn't need that, but I could easily add in some side plates if I wanted to, and it would hold that super, super easy. All right, though, so that's all of our pros, and we gotta have some cons too. So my first con is that there's no shoulder support to take off some of the load. With the ability to add so much equipment, the wide shoulder pads make carrying a load much easier, but I wish the shoulder straps were reinforced with a metal underlay to bend upward to take the load off of your shoulders. This would redistribute weight to the carrier and cummerbund to carry the load more comfortably. And I really think this would be a huge upgrade, as you'd be able to carry much more weight and it would feel like you're not really carrying anything. All right, though, let's move on to our next con, and that's that it kind of holds all the weight of the carrier fairly low on the system. As the inner plate bag doesn't use inner straps to move the weight of the plates up higher on the carrier, the weight can be centralized low on the overall system. And it would be a really easy fix to add some straps to move that weight upward, and then with the reinforced shoulder straps, it would definitely do some magic stuff. So I think that's it though. There is so much stuff going on with this carrier. Let's see how it stacked up. Still in our top spot is the Agilite K19 with its insane comfort and removable shoulder QDs with the new version 3. In second place, I placed the HRT LBAC. The entire carrier is user configurable to how you want to run it, along with the ability to adapt to the activity demands on the user, make this an absolutely fantastic carrier. And it all comes in one complete package. This is absolutely how you do things right and have the end user in mind. And here are all of our new updated rankings for all the other amazing plate carriers that we've taken a look at in this series. Well, I hope this review of the HRT load-bearing adaptive plate carrier was useful in your purchasing decisions. Don't forget though, that this is actually available right now. Like, it's on the website for purchase as you're watching this. So get over there. But I want to say thanks to all of our Patreons and all of our YouTube members. You guys make all this possible. They get to see all this cool stuff and do all these cool things. So thank you for it, and thank you for all your support. And I want to say thanks to everyone that likes, comments, and subscribes. Comment down below what you think about this LBAC and what your favorite feature is. Yeah, and tell me how you'd run it. All right, everyone, Walsh out. Okay, guys, have a good one.